can we move towards people who try to learn things by themselves?
Oh, yes.
Like self-taught designers, self-taught surgeons,
Right.
is that even a possibility?
Yeah. So, yeah, we don't recognize them as UX designers no matter how much ever you claim them to be, claim yourself to be as a UX designer. I'll tell you why. There is a pool of resource that is available out there, and you have identified something that might fit in well with the kind of personality that you possess, the kind of background that you have, and you have identified that, oh, I like building persona simply because ChatGPT gives me persona at this point of time. So I'm going to do this for all the projects there is, because that's exactly what I have streamlined as a process now. Is there anybody who has validated this? No. Is there any way by which you can actually make it practically viable for growth oriented business objectives? No, you don't know. So, what happens in this case is, although you have identified a process, although it might be working for the kind of current project that you could be working, because everybody around you could be lame as well, or they might not be looking at the fact that, did you really create a process that can be industrially set as a standard grade? No. If you try to take that and then put it across somewhere else, you will come across a situation where you'll feel like, oh, but it was working over there, it won't work over here. Yeah, you created something just for that particular setup, and it will not really work somewhere else at all. And what's going to happen is, this is not going to be a complete overview of what the process was supposed to be, what the kind of knowledge you were supposed to have as a user experience designer. And you have convinced a little through and through in many situations where you don't even know as to what is the role that you're supposed to play. I have gone through so many organizations where product managers, where the founders are convinced that this is exactly what UX designers are supposed to do. What? Fill in the color, I'll get with the clarity. Why? How did this happen? Is because there was a graphic designer who realized that I can make use of Photoshop, Figma in order to create the UI screens, and they delivered. How did they deliver? On what grounds? Because the product manager gave the clarity and then they delivered. Now what has happened is, because they were able to use Figma in order to create those layouts, they have convinced themselves that they are UX designers. These are the people who are self-learned. So the self-learned people who have known that they can make use of the same Figma and Photoshop to create the layout, also create the layout for user interfaces, have started to realize that, oh, that's exactly what a UX designer does. This is like stripping down the reality to the only extent that only I can comprehend. That's it. So if I can only see up until, say, a hill out there, that's exactly what the earth is surfaced. This is like frog in the pond. You got to step out and really start identifying as to what the world really looks at, user experience. And this is exactly what I have to say for people who come out from Udemy certificates, Coursera certificates, where things are made really easy for you, YouTube, and you don't have to either spend money, you don't have to really put efforts, there is nobody really validating as to whether you're taking it the right direction or not, and you still end up convincing yourself. So I kind of feel like the entire trajectory is created to convince yourself that you're an amazing user experience designer. That's that.
And also, I'd like to add one more thing. When I ask people, like, how did you realize that you wanted to be a designer? One standard answer, which I find really funny, is, since the time I was young, I was always a creative person.
Yeah.
I liked drawing.
Right.
I liked putting colors.
Yeah.
I was more artistic. I mean, no hate, but I don't think UX design is channeled only towards creativity. It's more. It's a lot of things. I mean, creativity is a part of it. Creativity, or the way how you want to make things look good, or aesthetic, is a part of it. But I think there's just like 20% of it. The rest 80% involves many other activities for you to arrive towards that solution, for you to arrive towards how the things might look good. As long as you don't have clarity towards that 80% of the work, whatever you have made to look good might not even solve the problem which your users are trying to work towards, or might not even solve the problem of your users. It might just look good.
So I tend to understand the word creativity in a different way. Creativity cannot be aligned only with what the visual outcome would come. For example, So I'm preparing food, and this time instead of putting tea powder first, then sugar, and then milk, I'm going to change that sequence and see as to how this would look like. That would require of a creative mind to see the same context from a different perspective. And everybody within the organization is supposed to be creative. Otherwise, we are going to be the dumb people who are not able to adapt to the changes which are occurring around us. For example, there is AI that's really taking over the world. That's what everyone says. And you're like, no, our ways at this point of time are working. We are not going to be creative. We are not going to be adaptive. We will not try to identify what different kinds of instances where AI should be utilized. Oh, you're going to lose out. And in this particular regards, only the design team cannot be seen from the point that they are supposed to be creative. While in many ways, we are also called to be the teams which are creative teams. Yeah, so that's a wrong statement to really start from. Second aspect, I think what you're also referring to is people cannot start from the point that I'm supposed to be really good with colors to become a user experience designer. I know of amazing user experience designers, design heads who do not know heads and tails of how to really bring in the kind of harmony that is required for a culture to accept from a colors perspective, from a typography standpoint. What are they really good at is figuring out what is the best experience that they could bring in, and the things that they are not aware of, they could actually get it done from somebody else too. So we try to emphasize on things which we have gotten comfortable around. Now, the graphic designer has got comfortable around visual, typography, color. I'm going to make everything about design just about that. And this happens almost even with respect to researchers as well. Research, if there is a team, if there is an organization where research team is predominantly set up right, you will realize that user experience is all about just research. They are the scientists who are out there. And they are the slowest people. They're appreciated just for that. You look at their solutions, they look shitty, but they work. There is experience enrichment that is not creating desirability from a color standpoint, from a visual hierarchy standpoint. Creative people. Yeah, but I get your point where you said that you cannot start from the point that I used to love putting Rangoli because there were colors into it, and that's why I realized that boom, I'm gonna be a UX designer. That's stupid. You have identified the most wrong angle to being a user experience designer.
I have also heard in a few renowned podcasts where the person is trying to interview another person who's at a very good level in the field of design, and they're trying to understand the journey. So this person says that I was really good with colors when I was young, so that's why I chose the field of design, and I'm doing great with life right now as a designer. Well, it might have worked out for you, but it wouldn't work out for everybody else. And first of all, if you in that position can say that since I as a child was interested in colors, it will give a wrong notion to thousands of people out there who are wanting to get into the field of design, that if I as a child was good with colors and good with drawing things, I also have the capability or the tendency of moving towards design.
Because it's going to influence the next generation out there who are trying to create a budding thought in themselves as to, I'm supposed to be a designer. And, oh, I like being a user experience designer because you get to talk to a lot of people. I think that's a basic notion to look at, right? And they're like, okay, where do I start? You should get comfortable with colors first. And I think people who are sitting in those positions, who have that kind of superiority associated with them, who can really make a change by their statements, if they come out and say some stupid things like that, it would really hamper the way how the entire user experience is envisaged. I have a streamline of thoughts for people who are just getting started by the self-learning, right? See, you can start from the point that you're about to explore what user experience is from many other resources out there. And there is YouTube, there also is Coursera,
Udemy.
You also can go ahead and then ask ChatGPT to create a generic course for you and then give as well. And that might give you an idea that you can really go about understanding anything in this world, maybe even create a Mars rover and then try to play it out there. Yeah, you can ask ChatGPT to identify as to what should be the physical design that is required. It will create for you because it is predicting. It does not know what's the truth base, and it is going to do anything that you ask of. But What's really going to happen with respect to any structure that you're following by yourself is you wouldn't understand as to are you making progress or are you diminishing in your identity as a user experience designer. There is nobody who is validating, forget about validating, helping, guiding. Did you not need teachers in the school for you to be guiding and figuring out as to what kind of life are you supposed to live as you move forward? So when you got to a stage where you realize that you have had really different education as a bachelor's because you invested time and money over there, say you become a bachelor's of engineer, and you're like, oh, but then I have invested in engineering, but I'm going to become a designer. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to go and watch YouTube and then just learn from there. How does this work? Firstly, you took a wrong decision of studying engineering. You invested lakhs of money over there and you have gotten into a different field altogether. And if you are not ready to invest time and money in order to learn that and just go ahead with some resources which are out there to convince yourself, how is this going to really help you become strong? You know what it creates? It creates an imposter personality. You come into even a slightly different situation, you're questioning yourself that, oh, I don't know. You're trying to put yourself in a corner and then just identify as to what am I supposed to do in this particular case. That does not happen when you maybe are dealing with, say, additions and subtraction. Do you know why? Because now you know that you can add 1 plus 1, you can add 1 plus 2, you can add 1 plus 3, and maybe up until millions. Why did this come? That's because you did not only learn how to add 1 plus 1 is equal to 2. And that's the number of experiences that you have passed through in order to become that person. So you have been taught in order to, at a basic level, become that person. And you need to really start looking at the fact that you need someone who actually helps you push into the right direction for a designer. You might go ahead and then take a look at YouTube videos because YouTube have a lot of good hooks as well. They would come and tell that in 4 hours I'm gonna make your user experience designer.
I also think YouTube has content, good content. It's like the first funnel, the beginning of the funnel of a sales. Like YouTube is a place where, people come and sell the initial part of their funnel, right? So it is where they are discussing, they're sharing knowledge about things, about their topic, about their expertise, trying to sell you that they can do a better job if you enroll into a bigger picture of whatever they are trying to build. So what I mean by this is YouTube is a place where there is unstructured content.
I love that. I'll tell you why. You can go and find hundreds of smaller videos that explain as to how you're supposed to perform interview. You can go ahead and then identify how should you conduct surveys. Now, do you think that there is one structured curriculum that is created on YouTube that says that this is exactly how you need to identify what is the need of the organization, the current state of the organization, yours. You need to identify how will you integrate the project's research within the organization. How will you assess your team structure? How will you exactly collect the data that might be required under the limitations that or the constraints that your team and the project has? How will you analyze that data? How will you create the right kind of insights by synthesizing that particular data? Will you be able to find a YouTube video like that? You'll start realizing that it's so dispersed, so unstructured that you will not be able to you will actually end up spending a lot of time in finding all that and putting together. Yeah. And even by the end, if you do so, they wouldn't be talking to one another. They would be so dispersed that somebody comes and says that, okay, you're supposed to conduct survey with 160 people depending upon the sample size calculation there is, and somebody just comes and says generic 500 logon se kar lo. Talk to 500 people and get the job done. And you're like wondering as to who is really right over here. And that creates another segment of study that you're supposed to take into account to validate as to who is right, who is wrong, because they're not talking to each other.